Well, hello, citizens of the world, in another episode with Shaba Shams as we continue to inspire, empower, and connect the citizens of the world to create success and achieve financial freedom. I'm so excited to have you guys here with my dear friend Troy Rice, Mr. Troy Rice in the house, guys, and I'm so happy to have you. I'm so excited to have you guys here with my dear friend Troy Rice, Mr. Troy Rice in the house, guys, and I'm so happy to have you. Troy, how are you?
Awesome. Grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
So good to have you, and welcome to the Shaba Shams pod show. I talk about a lot of different topics, but my passion, to be honest with you, is success and entrepreneurship. And I'm always so excited to have in my show these amazing minds who actually identified a problem and they dedicate their life and their time to solving it. But before we talk about that, tell me a little bit about Mr. Troy Rice. Where do you come from and what is your background and how did you get into the world of entrepreneurship?
Yeah. And so I'll start at like breaking the barrier of entrepreneurship because it really digs into where I come from. And so I didn't start off down this journey of entrepreneurship until I was in my early 30s. I did 10 years in the insurance industry in multiple different capacities. A lot of them were strategy roles. So I helped build culture programs because there was no talent development pipeline, no recognition program, no work-life integration program, which thankfully we built in time for COVID. But so I had an opportunity to learn how to help and work with people, and that was fun. But what happened was I would come home and I didn't want to share any of that with my family. None of it really made me proud. Like I was successful at the company, but I didn't care to share it with my kids or my wife. I chose not to talk about it and eventually hit a form of depression. And that was actually my journey into entrepreneurship. Was I had, like, for lack of better terms, my back up against the wall, and I needed to do something because I wanted to share my life with my family. And so I sat down one day and I said, what do I care about? And started focusing on what I could actually create that's unique to me and deliver it to the world and be proud about sharing it with my kids. And the two things that I wrote down were education and agriculture. And education was a fascinating route for me because I grew up bullied as a kid because most people look at me, and it's funny, Shaba, because when I talked to Archie for the first time, who's in our co-founder network, he was like, dude, you said the word bully and like everything just like shifted. Like I look at you and you're like this good looking dude and like, what are you talking about? And that it's never been about that for me. I grew up with that not being able to see very well. I had poor vision problems. I had a lot of childhood birth problems. And I had these huge, thick bifocal glasses, and I got picked on for probably all the way up through fifth grade. And so school wasn't a safe place for me. I didn't like being out in public. And interesting enough, I ended up having eye surgery back then, and they like cut my eye muscle and retied it back together. And it was a very low success rate procedure. Like there was no laser eye treatment. And grateful to this day that it worked out. But one thing that I had going for me was I was a good athlete, and I used that. I leveraged that to actually help other people that struggled to fit in or struggled to, feel safe at school. And so Why I share that is because when I went down this journey of actually changing my life, I hired a writing coach. I got very intimate about thought writing. And then with that, I got very good at writing about my dragons, about my past dragons, of how I felt when I was a kid, because I needed to let those go first before I did anything else.
And by
And
dragons,
so,
what?
what'd you say?
And by dragons, you mean what?
The thoughts and feelings that we have from childhood that we carry with us through our entire life.
Is
And
it
if we
similar
don't,
to something baggage? Is it similar to demons? Is it similar to limited belief? So all of this would be the same category as dragons.
yeah, and so I use the term dragons. It's not something I came up with. If you follow Dr. Daniel Aman's work, he created Aman University and Aman Clinics. He talks a lot about brain health. He shares a lot about this, which is like a lot of times we do the things we do in life because we have past dragons that kind of tear at us. And whether that's brain or a mental block or feelings that we have close to our heart, and they're all connected. If we don't tackle them head on, then we're never really going to deliver our true self to the world. We're always going to be playing in this game. And so it's something that I've kind of learned from him. And I was going through that journey before I discovered his work. But what I did was I took how I felt, I reflected on that. I started writing a lot, publishing articles on LinkedIn, and then started speaking in schools. And I became highly sought after for perspectives of bullying and going to middle schools, high schools, and universities. And what I would do is not only couple it with talking about bullying, but I would couple it with growth mindset and getting kids to start to think about what it looks like to build their future now, because nobody gave me that guidance when I was younger. And I just lived up through other people my whole life until I finally hit that stopping point, and I didn't want other people to do that. So that's what education meant. And then agriculture was interesting because my wife and I, soon after we got married, we decided that we would start to give more attention back to our health and food. And then that's when we dug into learning about where food comes from and learning about farm workers and the history of farming. And if you follow anything around like colonialism and indigenous people, you can learn how food systems have basically degraded our soil, our food systems, and our health for decades. And so it was something that I just kind of got really curious about, dug in. We started going to as many farms as would have me. And I didn't know what it would look like at that point, but I knew that I wanted to help out in that space however I could. And so I discovered that like a online farmers market model back in 2018 would be a unique concept to bring younger generations to a farmers market by allowing them to shop ahead of time online. So in other words, you could pick up to 18 farmers markets in the state of Michigan. You could pre-shop online ahead of time and then enjoy an express pickup. So if you're somebody that didn't slot time to go to a market or didn't even were aware of farmers markets, it allowed you to see what was out there, what farms are around, what they've grown, and then be able to enjoy an express convenient pickup. And so I hacked together something. I didn't know what I was doing. I used like, what was it? It was like an e-commerce platform in Wix, and I hacked together something and I made it work. And it was very interesting, and people believed in me. They believed in that it would work. It was poorly built. It was terrible to operate. And we ended up shutting it down, but we built an extensive network and passion behind it. So we built something new. I learned how to become a lean farm coach. I started coaching farms to run profitable businesses because I became certified as a green belt in corporate. And so I got to learn about farming and help coach basically entrepreneurs. A lot of people don't think about farming as that, but that's what they are. They're entrepreneurs, and coach them on the farm. And then slowly built into new tech builds, and now 10X, which I'm grateful for because a lot of this I was doing on my own and on my own solo journey. And then what we'll probably get into a little bit too is also digging into technology for food assistance programs. And it's something that doesn't get talked about that often, but we created another platform called Snappier that helps bridge the gap between USDA funded food assistance programs and the participants that use them. And all of it's tied around food.
All right. So, what's really awesome about this interview as it's getting started, just really, this is my first question, is that normally as I am listening, I'm building my questions towards where you are now. And you gave me the entire interview in this one question. So now literally I have to break it down because you're mentioning
Sure.
some things that I want to jump on or jump in and kind of elaborate a little bit on. Uh, because one, I'm interested and I'm sure that people want to hear more about it. So the first part would be probably related to the experience of being bullied. And I really have to stop there moment because I believe that a lot of people experience bullying in a different way. And then I like Archie's, comment that, oh, you being bullied. And a lot of people don't understand that it's not a certain, stereotype or look that
Yep.
gets you into bullying. Sometimes it's just you being different, you being innovative, you being an outside of the box thinker. You could be really great looking and, kind of have that attraction, but still people can pick on you. I love the fact that
Yes.
you talk about it in high schools, and I worked with high school kids. And one thing that I learned about them, and they are very, very much unpredictable in what comes out of their mouth. So the question is, my question to you is, what is the most unexpected reaction question you got from this age group that kind of got you stop and thinking for a moment and realizing how they are getting the message or how they are receiving the message around bullying?
Vulnerability. And so this is what it looks like, because when I talk about bullying, a lot of times when bullying gets brought up, it's methods for like shunning bullies, like telling bullies like that's not acceptable, or you involve the parent or the teacher or whatever. But what we don't do a good job of is asking why. Because when I have those conversations in the school and I start to go on the path of really how I reflected of perspectives of bullying in my own journey, which is I would soon date one of my bullies in high school. And then when I was dating her, I learned that she had a rough childhood. She had a dad that was very verbally abusive. And so she felt insecure, and therefore she took that to school, and it made her feel better by putting people down. And a lot of the times, that's truly where bullying comes from. It's because both people have an insecurity. One, the person being bullied has some type of insecurity of self-confidence, most cases. And then the bully is coming from an insecurity of learning how to deal with their own trauma and then making themselves feel better about it by expressing it in ways that are hurtful to other people. And so when I share that, the room kind of resonates in one form or another, right? Because everybody's had a little bit of experience of somebody saying something to them or making them feel a certain way. And then if you're on the opposite side of the spectrum, you sit there and you say, well, shit, like, yeah, like I don't feel like I'm my kind self because things aren't right at home, you know? And so it almost becomes like this heart lift of this is how I rationalize my feelings, and this is how it may be interpreted to other people, and it's not coming off the right way. And so I share vulnerability because I typically go through a little bit of an exercise that gets people to kind of open up a little bit. And the most powerful short story I can share is I was a 10th grade class, and this kid stood up and he said, I one thing I care about in life is music. And I would say, well, okay, why do you care about music so much? And he said, because when my sister was 7, she was diagnosed with leukemia.
Mm.
And I didn't know how to cope with those feelings. And music was the only way that helped me feel safe at home and at school. And it was so powerful, Shaba, that everybody in the room, I don't care if they hated each other or they didn't like each other or they picked on each other, or they had different cliques or groups, everybody was on the same level in that moment because everybody felt it. And I could see it on everyone's faces. And so when I go talk, that's really what that's how everybody kind of shapes the room, is we all get to this place where we're coming at it together as humans.
Before we move to another segment, let's stay a little bit on the topic of bullying kids. And you're a
Yeah.
father. You're a father, right? We
Yes.
yeah, we see nowadays that maybe what we have experienced in terms of bullying in school is a lot less than what the teenagers nowadays are experiencing thanks to social media and the level of access that everybody has on everybody and the fakeness of life that some have created for themselves. So what could you do, or what are you doing as a father to protect or guide your own teens, your own children, going through these phases, understanding that no matter what you and I have experienced in high school, now it's like 10 times, 10x, 10x more. Uh, it's the other way, in the other side. I shouldn't even be connecting 10x and bullying, but it's like it's just so accentuated now. What is your role in building that understanding and trying to navigate these waters with your own children?
Paying attention, because I think, especially for entrepreneurs that have a lot on their mind because they're trying to create stuff in the world, sometimes it's easy to forget and to not pay attention to each of your kids. And I have 4 kids. And one thing I decided I was going to do as a father was I was going to observe each person and just listen and pay attention when I'm in the room with them. And the reason I got to this place is because I can't create a bubble for them the rest of their lives, nor can I
Absolutely, yeah.
make the path for them.
Mm.
I can just lay out the vision and the guidance as a father. And the only way that I'm going to do that is if I'm going to observe and listen. And so that's one thing that I believe as creating, good children and being the father that I can be, is behind closed doors. I work on myself because I don't want my feelings to be displayed to my kids. I want to figure those out first. And so I figure out myself first. And then I sit there and not let my feelings project, but just be present in the moments with the kids and understand each person individually.
And the biggest challenge for you is what?
Time. And the reason I say that is every time we have more kids, and we're not having any more, of course, good for me. But being able to give the time needed to each, but most importantly, give it to my wife first. And so I think every day for me is a juggle because I'm trying to create my future, but I also want to realize what's really important in life is that I have a beautiful wife that I want to give the most time and prioritize time to. And then how do I give the right guidance to 4 kids as well? And so every day is a time balance for me.
And by the way, you have a beautiful family because I've seen a lot of
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful wife, beautiful kids. So it's a challenge, I believe, for everyone. It's just matter to try to do your best and be the best version of yourself and give the best to others, and which you are absolutely doing. I mean, I've met you through the 10X incubator, and I've been very honored and privileged to meet you in person during our immersion, and we immediately connected because the work you do and mine are so aligned, and I'm looking forward to our strategic partnership moving forward. But let's talk a little bit about what you are creating, because I believe it's going to really impact life, and I know you have a moonshot, and so do I. Share a little more, or a little more, I would say, deeper, better, bigger ideas on what you're building, what's your moonshot, and how are you approaching this new episode journey in your life?
Yeah, so our moonshot is 100,000 farmers markets and reducing healthcare spending by $100 billion and becoming carbon neutral by 2030. And what does all that mean? It means that we're going to radically change food systems, focusing on the small to mid-sized farmer, And in doing so, we're actually going to give back to people's health. We're going to give back to the land and the soil, and we're going to start to regenerate our planet just through the food that we eat. And so that's the power that we hope to create. But what does it look like to people? In essence, we're creating online farmers markets so that anybody from their house, their business, their church can run a online farmers market, working with local farmers and food producers. And that's why Shaba and I are so aligned, because Kittable and cottage food producers can participate. But basically, we want to bring local, high nutrient dense food into communities. And that's how the world was built back decades ago. I mean, that's how things worked. And we've slowly degraded that with the food systems we have, with the mass production, with the mistreatment of animals, the mistreatment of our land and pesticides. And so typically, the farmers that are not doing that and the farmers that are keeping our soils healthy and safe for us are the small to mid-sized farmers. They're really focusing on organic practices, regenerative practices, but they're sidelined on a daily basis, meaning like most of their sales come through farmers markets, and farmers markets are sparingly across the US. Some of them, people have no idea where they're at. They operate during hours that aren't fit for most families. And why? Like, why are we keeping the people that need to help us with our planet and our food health? Why are we keeping them at bay and making it so hard? And so we hope to create ease in that space. And then we also have some unique partnerships where not only do you get to own a farmbrigge or participate as a customer and get the food, it's going to be packaged with entrepreneur tools to help you basically run a business. You're going to get digital marketing tools. We're going to teach you what that looks like. And then we're partnering with health coach industries and nutrition coaches, where if a customer wants to dig into their health, not just buy the food, but they can access a health coach that will help them dig into their habits and their health coach journey. So that's what we're really excited about, is we're really tackling a lot of things at once, but not in a complicated way, really in a seamless way that's partnering all the right people together.
Yeah, and this is why Kittable is so, parallel or working together with FarmBridge, because you work with the the farmers community and building online or digital farmers markets, like it's like an online front shop or farmers market. And we're building Kittable, which is a marketplace for cottage food operators to come in and sell their baked goods. And the beauty about it is that some of them will be coming to FarmBridge to buy their fresh produce and their organic items, and then come back to Kittable and sell the organic food from FarmBridge, and then come back to farmers markets and sell them there. So it is just such an amazing, ideas that are like you are thinking in your world, and I've been operating in my world. And then the universe brought us together because we have really the same aligned mission, in a way, is really empowering the local food and local farmers and made locally. And actually, I read the study, I'm going to send it to you, recently, where they said local is hot. And when I did
Mhm.
my presentation last week, I was saying that local is hot, tech is sexy. So we are in the business of the coolest people in the planet by doing something
Absolutely.
super cool and super hot. Um, so what are your biggest challenging in getting, you went over the MVP, you went over the family and friends, and now you're getting into the angel investors and moving forward. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts and your emotion, and how you have gone through all these stages, and what you felt was the biggest challenge, and how you moving forward towards the next steps.
Yeah. So funding has been the most interesting thing to me, because before coming to 10x, I had these two companies that I had worked on, morphed, done kind of by myself, and I personally financed everything. I took everything that I had and I put it into whatever I could build. And so I never had to build investment circulars, pitch decks, work with investors, none of that. That's all new to me. And so I had an opportunity to really dig into building business models, building customer acquisition tables. Like none of that I had done before. So it was fun, challenging, interesting. And the investor space is very intriguing because people want to help out, but they also want to see
The
you.
numbers,
They
the
want to
numbers,
see a
the
track
numbers.
record. They want to see, and so it's a little bit of a dance. But the dance can be very good. And you and I were talking offline, like we have a strategic investor partner that we're working with right now that just magnifies not only FarmBridge and Snapier, but his world. And I think when you find one of those, then that's when the magic really happens, because somebody that really grows not just their bank account, but grows in their mission of what they're really trying to do too in their own work. And you couple that together with something else, and you work on it together. I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, the force of good and the impact you want to have also
Yes.
investor, which is really important. So I haven't gone into the angel investors experience yet. So is it a little bit like Shark Tank?
It's interesting because, well, here's a kind of a good feedback. So when we first went down this journey and we were sharing pitch decks for FarmBridge and Snapier, we had some feedback come through, and one person said, both of these ideas are trying to tackle huge problems in multiple different facets. Like that's not possible. And I told Dr. Ben Lerner in our 10X system, and I said, we're on to something. So I think that's a mental game too, because you could look at that and say, well, the feedback we're getting is like people don't think it's possible. They're not willing to invest. They don't understand. But I look at it as if it was all figured out, then somebody would have done it by now. And so I like to look at those and really strengthen like my mental toughness and say, we're on to something. That means like this idea is bigger than what any other people have been able to think through. And I think that matters. And maybe it's just finding the right person. And so every day is a dance because you live and breathe in it. Like my heart is in FarmBridge and Snapier, right? And so I live and breathe in it every day. I try to talk about it as much as I can. And that's not the investor world, right? Like the investor world is numbers. The investor world may be a mission driven behind the scenes, but it's really figuring out how that can align and how does it make sense, especially when you're coming at it from an idea concept and not an existing foundation.
The beauty about this, though, is that sometimes all you need is that one person. With
Yes.
7.6 billion on the planet, this is why I believe you need to be in front of as many people as possible and tell your story as much as you can. Because out of that 7.6 billion on the planet, all you need is that one person who sees the vision and believe in what you're doing and say, let's write the story together. And that happens. I believe that the universe will bring to you, and you will attract the right people that will help you achieve your dreams, because no dream, no power of a vision like this and a moonshot like this should be gone unnoticed. And by unnoticed, I mean
Mm.
the universe kind of just like blindsided to what we are asking for and what we are trying to accomplish. So it's really an honor for me, Troy, to walk the walk with you on this journey, because like I said, Kittable and Farmers Market, Farm Brave, sorry, are just like two people who will probably become best friends. The
Yeah.
nature of who they are, it's not going to be question there. And I hope that we're going to be supporting each other along this journey. I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing your time. But before I end this discussion, what is it that you're seeing yourself like down the road, your vision, your dream? Where do you see yourself?
Yeah. So what I would love to do, so this is like past tech companies, which is I'm looking to actually become an integrated health practitioner and a naturopathic doctor. And how that ties into all this is we want to not only be able to create the access for food and focus on farming in the land, but we really want to bring clinics, like actual like health clinics, and help people get back to where they know that they want to be with their life and their health. And so one passion of mine is I spend a lot of my time learning about brain health, learning about biome and human genomes. And I do that because at some point I want to build this infrastructure of health clinics tied to food farming. And so the future for me would be that, being the voice out there and helping people feel that they've regained back their life and their health, and they can feel comfortable that their kids are going to grow up in an environment where the planet is thriving and not we're in this mission to save it.
What a beautiful mission. What a beautiful mission. Such an honor that our journey crossed, and I look forward to futures, amazing things that we're going to accomplish together and with Jared and the Grant Cardone and the entire 10X incubator and 10X community. So I'm super excited about that. Thank you again for being here. Here you have it, another episode of Shaba Shams Podshow, as we continue to inspire, empower, and connect the citizens of the world to create success and financial freedom. Why not? So I will see you on the next one, and salam.